Hidden between the awe-inspiring Palladian East Front of Wentworth Woodhouse and the even earlier glorious Baroque House at the back is another house, the hidden survivor of a house built in the 1600s, the house built by Thomas Wentworth, the great Earl of Strafford. But even this house was not the earliest house on this site. The story of Wentworth Woodhouse began almost 1,000 years ago, when part of the great forests that covered this part of Yorkshire were cleared to create an estate that ran alongside the neighbouring estate of Wentworth, or Wentworth. We can guess that a house was built in a clearing, substantial enough to give its name to the family that owned it, the Woodhouses. According to the earliest family sources, the estate was first held by Wolsey Woodhouse Esquire in the 1200s, a minor nobleman and a knight in training. The de Woodhouses grew rich in the generations that followed. Legend has it that around 1250, the heiress Emma de Woodhouse married Robert de Wentworth, combining the two estates, and the family became known as the Wentworths of Wentworth Woodhouse. For some 400 years, the estate passed from father to son, until it was inherited in 1611 by Thomas Wentworth, the 18-year-old second baronet of Wentworth Woodhouse, who was to rise to become the great Earl Strafford, the ill-fated advisor to an equally ill-fated King Charles I. Both lost their heads in the 1640s in the turbulent events surrounding the English Civil Wars. Strafford's rise to power and wealth was meteoric. Finding the house was no longer grand enough to reflect his great position, he set about enlarging the sprawling family house he had inherited and transforming it into one of the greatest houses in the West Riding of Yorkshire. According to a now long-lost old family painting, Strafford's newly expanded house may have looked something like this, set in a large parkland with a principal entrance, a porter's lodge, 3 stables and a coach house, 2 towers, a banqueting hall, kitchens, a brew house and bakery, and even an orangery. In 1620, Wentworth Woodhouse housed 64 family and servants, and, on occasion, as many as 40 more of his Clifford in-laws and their servants. His household included, surprisingly for such a serious man, a jester he called Tom Fool. Perhaps the great Earl once had more of a sense of humour than is apparent from his portraits. Most of the house that Strafford built was either dismantled or built around by his great-grandson Thomas Watson Wentworth, the first Marquess of Rockingham, in the early part of the 1700s. But you can still catch glimpses of Strafford's house. Here in Chapel Court, an old entrance at Wellgate seems to lead to a door no longer there. The gateway may have been moved, but perhaps is the very one Strafford left by when he was summoned by his king to face his impeachment trial in London. Hidden away in a courtyard behind the grand staircase, part of the exterior of the 17th century house is still visible. And here an old doorway has survived the first Marquess's rebuild. Inside the house, Strafford might have recognised the oak staircase leading to his bedroom and the dressing room redecorated in the mid-18th century. Just off the long gallery is an area of the house still called Clifford's Lodgings, echoes perhaps of all those visits by his father-in-law Francis Clifford, the 4th Earl of Cumberland, his many in-laws and their retinues. He might well have recognised the old hall too from his time. Strafford left Wentworth Woodhouse for the last time in 1640 to face impeachment and ultimately to stand trial and execution for a trumped-up charge of treason. The king, unable to protect his friend from the fury of Parliament and the English people, was at least moved to return Strafford's lands immediately to his son. 20 years later, Strafford was cleared of treason and his title restored. Wentworth Woodhouse was inherited by his son William and ultimately by his daughter Anne's family, the Watsons, who adopted the name Watson Wentworth. The house that Strafford built lasted another 84 years, until his great-grandson Thomas Watson Wentworth, 1st Marquess of Rockingham, another remarkable social climber, built not one but 2 grander houses around it. But that story is for another film.